Hey guys, I don't know if I'm live on Instagram and YouTube, but I'm hoping that this works. Um, Welcome to my channel. If you're new here, so am I. This is something that I've felt I should do for years, but I just didn't know. I still don't know what I'm going to share, what it's going to be about. So, anyway, we're just starting. Um, I'm hoping that I'm going to make this short, but if you know me, short and sweet is not my strong suit. So, anyway, a few months ago, I shared a reel on Instagram and YouTube about my word for 2022 and how it was purpose and the revelation I had around what our purpose is and how it's linked to us just being fully ourselves. And I had a few people message me and say that it's really insightful and, thank you for sharing. And I just felt like it was only half the story. So today I'm going to give you part one of what happened in 2023 and 2024. Um, like I said, I think our purpose is linked to us being fully ourselves and how God uses us to talk to people that we can relate to. Like certain people will never understand what you've been through, um, what you talk about when, yeah, no, let me rather say, a lot of people won't relate to, yeah, everything that you've been through. So your story might be inspiring to someone, or it might be kind of mm, unrelatable to someone else. I'm also hoping the sound works. I have no idea, but anyways, okay, we'll do this trial run. So in 2023, with the new insight of, okay, my purpose is to be fully myself, and I'd been on this journey since 2018 of like really just God showing me a few things that have been hidden, I think, for most of my life. Things that I didn't realize, things that I had been wondering about. Um, like if you've been following me on Instagram, you'll know that I've shared about my eating disorder, and there are certain things that can, like, I'm someone who needs to find answers. Okay, let me say that. I'm someone who needs to find answers. So for me, it has to make sense. Like something like that doesn't just happen. So I've been on this journey of trying to find out like why I am the way I am, why I struggle with the things I struggle with. And so in 2018, I feel like God's really been just peeling back the layers and like showing me things that I hadn't known before and that I needed to work through. So in 2022, if you watch my reel, I said that I'd been doing a lot of mental and emotional work, and I feel like I've been doing that the last few years since I hit my 30s. I feel like I started doing a lot more getting to know me work. Um, so 2023 was, I'm trying to think now. I think, yeah, both my kids, it was the first year that both my kids were in the same school. So morning drop off routines were easier. Whereas before they were in two different schools and I had to drive over an hour in the mornings to drop them off. Um, and I think from 2020, everyone was like, okay, this year has to be better, this year has to be better. But 2023 was the first year that was kind of back to normal after COVID. So everything had opened up, and school was in full swing, and we had not experienced this before. So it was the first month of school was um, get to know the teacher, meet the class, or like get to know the meet the teacher, get to know the school, information evenings, welcoming. Like they have a lot of Afrikaans schools are very well. I don't know, maybe English schools are probably also, but like very social. So they have picnics and events, and it was a lot for us to get used to because our kids went to school, basically big school, when COVID hit. So we weren't used to that. So anyway, we get to also like most of our family's birthdays are in the first few months of the year. So it's just birthdays in school, and we get to the middle of the year and I'm like, okay, things are calming down. We should start getting into a better routine now. And in July, um, what we went away, and beginning of August, my husband had a hockey tournament. So he plays action hockey and he has interprovincials once a year. So that year, the interprovincials were in Cape Town. So we were very excited, had our plane tickets booked, and we were going to Cape Town for the week. And I think it was like 2 days before we flew out, we I got a message from my sister saying that my dad had been diagnosed with prostate cancer and he was going for an emergency operation to get rid of it. Um, yeah, I don't know if it was obviously it's a shock finding out something like that. Um, but I think at the same time, it was weird for me that I heard it from my sister and then I didn't hear it from my dad. So anyway, we go to Cape Town and we get updates. You know, dad went for surgery. It was successful. He's recovering, and obviously my sister and my brother were here, so they went to visit my dad, and they were sending updates. And I was like, okay, cool. I'm glad to know that he's fine. Um, for me, I just want to stop this video and start all over because I feel like I'm talking in circles. Anyway, um, I just want to put this out there that this is obviously my experience. So I can only speak from my point of view and how I experienced it. And yeah, for me, if someone doesn't tell me about something big like that, it means that they don't want me to be a part of it. So um, I was trying to navigate like, should I call my dad? Should I send him a message? Should I just keep checking in with my brother and sister that he was fine? Um, yeah, so we're in Cape Town and Vian is playing IPTs. And at the same time, I'm like wondering, should I check in with my dad? Should I not? Um, yeah. Also, during this time, my grandfather's health had been declining for a few years, and it was really getting to a place where it was like very bad. And my aunt finally convinced him and my grand to move into the they had bought a house previously in a retirement estate. So she had convinced them to move into this house. So she said, listen, guys, they're moving in September. So please, can anyone come help out to pack up the house? Um, so it sounds strange, maybe, but the house that they were leaving is almost like my second childhood home. They built that house when I was little. We spent a lot of time there. Um, my grandparents were really like second parents to us. So I'm also kind of preparing during this time. I was like getting ready to say goodbye to this house. And yeah, so anyway, okay, we get back. No, we were still in Cape Town, and I send my dad a message. I decide, like, okay, maybe, he's just obviously going through a lot of things. He might be just overwhelmed, forgot to send me a message or call me or whatever. So I send him a message and I say, hey, I heard that you went for surgery. I'm glad it went okay. Um, how are you doing? And I see that my message went unread. And then I noticed that my previous message that I sent him at the end of July had gone unread. And I saw that he didn't have a profile picture. So I asked my husband to just go on WhatsApp and check, if there's a profile picture on his phone. And he says no. So I'm like, I think he blocked us on WhatsApp. So I messaged my brother-in-law and I'm like, hey, weird question, but does dad have a profile picture on WhatsApp? And he's like, yeah, he does. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. That's why he's not getting my messages, because I've been blocked on WhatsApp. So now there's all this like, okay, what happened? What did I do? Why did he block me on WhatsApp? Should I call him and ask him? Anyway, so we come back from Cape Town. Vian's team won the interprovincials. So there's all these emotions of like, I'm confused, I'm worried, I'm excited for Vian. I'm sad because my grandparents are moving and we have to say goodbye to this house. And yeah, we get home and literally we landed the afternoon. Came home, we had just started unpacking, and my phone rings and it's my gran, and she says, hey, are you guys home? I said, yeah, we literally just got home. She said, okay, great, can you please come over? Your grandfather is not doing well. He has not been able to move from where he's sitting. Can you please come help? So we're like, okay, cool. Put the kids in the car, and they live just down the road from us. So we get in the car and we go help. And that was the first day of, I think, what was about a week or two, where like daily we had to go help, carry him from the bedroom to the bathroom, from the bathroom to the living room. We had to help him get dressed. We had to help wash him and change the bedding, all that kind of stuff. So that was obviously a lot. And to also, I don't know when my gran would call. So sometimes it was while we were making supper, and then we'd have to load the kids in the car, because I don't know why my gran called me. I'm not strong enough to carry my grandfather. So obviously, Vian had to go with. And we can't leave the kids home alone. So the whole family is off to my grandparents' house. And then eventually my grandfather had a stroke the night before the moving van was coming to pack up their whole house. So the ambulance came and fetched him. And at that point, I was already kind of feeling guilty that, I don't know how to explain it. Like my kids were getting sucked into, something that they shouldn't really have been a part of. Yeah, and I was learning how to put up boundaries during that time. And so I just felt my grand called me and she said, listen, the ambulance is coming to fetch your grandfather. Can you go to the hospital with him? And I don't even know if Vian was here that evening. I don't think he was here. So obviously I can't just leave my kids. Part of me was like, yeah, but you could just call someone and get a babysitter and just go with. But I was like, no, sorry, I can't. I can't. And so this whole fun internal guilt trip happened as well of like, why can't you be there for, you know, your grand and your grandfather? They need you right now, and you're just, you know, being selfish. And anyways, but I felt like it was the right thing to do, to say no and to put my kids first. So anyway, my grandparents, my grand basically, yeah, moved. My grandfather was in the hospital, and that was September. And from that point, he was released after about 2 weeks, I think, and then he was put in the frail care unit. Yeah, in the retirement estate where they were moving to. So they hadn't moved yet. I think this was just before they had moved. So he was in the frail care, and my grand called me and she said, listen, my grandfather has nothing to sleep in. Can I please just go and buy him some clothes and take it to him in the frail care unit? So I went and I bought him some pajamas and like had a visit with him. And as I left, the school called me, and it wasn't time to go fetch the kids yet. But so obviously, I'm like, someone's sick or something happened. So it's Caden's teacher, and she's like, I think Caden just broke his arm. So I'm like, okay, I'm on my way. Get there, and Caden's arm is in a sling, and he's got like a makeshift, yeah, he's got like a makeshift sling on with a ruler, kind of holding his arm steady. And so he was in so much pain. And so we go to the doctor, do the x-rays. Yep, his arm is definitely broken. And so that was an interesting experience, because obviously if you've had your kid break something, he had to go for surgery. So we spent the night in the hospital. By the time he went into surgery, he'd already fallen asleep because it was late, and obviously it was like he had a lot of pain. So he didn't really remember the surgery. So at some point during the night, he woke up and he said, when are they taking me in? And I said, no, you've already been in. You know, your arm's fixed. And yeah, so anyway, that was that. Despite my dad not, so I'm still blocked on WhatsApp. Despite that, my dad showed up in hospital. Like everyone obviously came to visit my son and like, you know, say sorry that your arm's broken, but now you've got this cool cast. I should have written notes because now I'm like, I have no idea where I am or what I'm talking about. Okay, so Caden breaks his arm. And then my grandparents moved. At some point, and this was like September of 2023. Yes. Okay, so earlier that year also, my mom had not been in a good space for quite some time. And so we were growing more concerned, and my sister had booked her an appointment with a psychiatrist for October. And my grandfather's health, he was in and out of, eventually toward the end of October, he passed away. And I think the thing that it's so ridiculous because, like, looking back, so much had happened, and I didn't have time to take everything in and to process everything because we were just going through it, and we just had to keep going and just figure out everything that was still happening. Like Caden had to have a second surgery, so that was still coming up. And when my grandfather passed away, we were like obviously very upset. But my sister and I had a conversation, and we were like, we just hope that my mom doesn't use this as an excuse to not go to the appointment because, like, it had taken a lot of effort from my sister's side to get the appointment. And we were both like, we just hope that she's not now like, well, she has to help with the funeral arrangements and, she has to help my grand move. Um, so instead of like mourning the fact that my grandfather had passed away, we were, focused on like, but is our mom going to get the help that we think she needs? Um, so I think it was 2 days after my grandfather passed away. I drove to my parents' house and I made sure that my mom got in the car to get to her appointment. And my sister was waiting there for her to make sure that she got there. And while I was at my parents' house, my dad was there, and I said to him, "Listen, do you need to go to work or do you have a moment to chat?" And he was like, "No, he's not working today." Same, like I don't understand what's going on. You blocked me on WhatsApp, and anyway, we had, I think, for about 2 hours, we just sat and had a conversation about, again, like he had been and I just and lost. Um, I just gave him my perspective, and he said, "Okay, he understands. Like there had been things that happened that led up to him blocking us, but I'm not going to get into that." And so he said, "Okay, no, he understands, and it makes sense." And yeah, we were on good terms again. Um, and so my mom went for her appointment and was admitted to, or like it was advised that she be admitted to an inpatient treatment. And she obviously said, "Look, can she just sort everything out with my grandfather's funeral? Just like, yeah, handle whatever needs to be handled and help my grand settle into," yeah, I think my grandparents had already moved at that point. Yes, because obviously, okay. Oh gosh. Okay. When they had already moved into their new house. So the boxes weren't unpacked yet, but at least they were moved now. Okay, so that was October. November, the 1st and the 2nd of November, my brother and sister had babies. Yes, they were born a day apart, cousins. And so obviously, we just had this huge loss to our family. And now we had 2 new lives to celebrate. So it was a big emotional roller coaster during this time. Caden was also going through, obviously, the fact that he broke his arm connection. Okay. So the day that my nephews were born, my dad informed us that he would not be going away to, we have a beach house, a family beach house. And so he informed us that he wouldn't be joining us for December because he'd gone for his first post-op check checkup, post-op checkup, yes. And his cancer markers were still high, so he had to start chemo. Um, and yeah, so that obviously we wanted to stay home and be here to support him, but we had friends coming from Australia who had already booked their plane tickets and they were coming to stay with us. So we decided, okay, cool, we're going to go down, but we're going to cut the vacation short and, just stay 2 weeks so that we're there with our friends and then we can come home. And at this point, I think also we realized that like so much had happened. The kids were looking forward to spending time with their cousins and their aunts and uncles. And I think we felt like as a family, we also just needed to get away. So yeah, we went at the end of November. We went away. Oh yes, okay, I'm getting ahead of myself. I helped my dad, like, yeah, it was about the same time that my dad started chemo that my mom went to the inpatient treatment. So we were like, okay, chemo is hectic. My mom's not going to be there. Obviously we need to like help my dad out with whatever he needs. So I have struggled with insomnia since high school. It gets better sometimes and then worse at times. And during this time, because obviously everything that was happening, I was struggling to sleep again. And so I remember the first morning that I took my dad for chemo. I did not sleep. I think I got like an hour's sleep that night, and it was in the living room on the beanbag. I was exhausted and I almost overslept. But the kids came and woke me up and they were like, aren't you supposed to take Opa to the doctor's appointment? And at this point, I think like we tried to explain to our kids that their grandfather has cancer, but if it's not something that you've experienced and you don't understand, like how do you explain cancer to kids? So, but we said that, he's gonna go to the doctor and he's gonna get medicine and yeah. So I took him for the first round of chemo, and I think it was, if I remember correctly, it was 5 days of chemo and then a week or two rest period, and then 5 days. And so my brother-in-law and I decided that we could take turns because obviously my sister had just had a baby. My brother's wife had just had a baby. And so it was my sister's second one and it was my brother's first one, just to give some context there. Yeah, so that was, again, I don't think it's something that you can explain to someone unless they've been through it, why it's emotionally taxing for you to have a loved one go through cancer and chemo. And so obviously at some point the chemo started affecting my dad's health. He lost a lot of weight. His hair started falling out. And so we had to, my kids kept on asking, when can they see Opa? When can they see Opa? And at some point we were like, okay, look, you are going to, you can see Opa, but he doesn't look like you remember him. And so we kind of had to prepare them for that, which again, as a mom, having to navigate your kids' emotions when you're struggling to navigate your own is a really hard thing. But yeah, so my kids saw my grand my grandfather, their grandfather, and there were a lot of questions, a lot of emotions. I think also as a kid, when you see your grandparent that's sick, it's almost like you feel they're frail. So they struggled to hug him. You know, he'd lost weight. He'd had like lost his hair. So it was also kind of painful to see my kids not want to sit on their grandfather's lap or give him a hug. Um, and to have to say, you know, like, it's okay, you can give him a hug. He's not going to break. So, yeah, that was quite challenging. Okay, and then we went away, and we were very nervous going away because my mom still wasn't home, which meant that my dad had to like either manage on his own until my mom came home, or he had to, you know, ask someone else for help. And my dad doesn't ask for help. He's like, in fact, we had to force it on him that we would take him to chemo because we're like, you can't drive after spending 8 hours in chemo. So yeah, anyway, it wasn't 8 hours. It was the whole morning, 5 hours, I think. Anyways, so we went away and we were very concerned. Like, obviously, kept checking in on my dad. How is he doing? My mom came home and she said, "No, you know, don't worry. I'm here. I've got things." And um, she didn't got things. So it went well for a few days, and then yeah, she started struggling. And so my dad was driving himself to chemo and making sure that there were groceries in the house. And still on top of all of this, we're dealing with Hayden, who is, I don't think I'd realized it at this point, but like obviously he was still struggling emotionally with, obviously, he still had a broken arm. Um, I'm trying to remember when his cast came off. August, September, October, November. Oh yeah, I think it did come off in November. So he had his second surgery in November, which was way more traumatic than the first one because he was completely awake for the whole hospital visit. So yeah. So we're on holiday with a kid who is struggling to sleep, having nightmares. I think also they were dealing with all the emotions of their grandfather being sick, and it was a weird December vacation because I don't, yeah, my brother and his wife weren't there, my parents weren't there, my gran was mourning the loss of my grandfather, and it was strange. It was a very weird holiday. Um, But then, yeah, that was December basically. It was a hard December. My dad was in and out of hospital. He should have died. Like even the doctor was like, we'd call my dad and he'd be like, yeah, the doctor doesn't know why I'm still alive. Like he was expecting me to be dead this morning. And during this time also my dad's mental and emotional health got really bad. So he kind of got to a point where he was like, it would be better if I just died and you guys didn't have to worry about me. And so I feel like I should end this video on a much better note. But that was my 2023. Um, and that was with the upbeat ending to my reel where I said now in 2023 I'll get to, you know, walk in my purpose. This was this was the beginning of me walking in my purpose, I guess. So there's part one. I'll share part two next week. Um, yeah, I don't know if this was helpful to anyone, but there it is. If you enjoyed this, yeah, like, comment, subscribe, share. I hope you'll be back, but thanks for watching. Bye.